My name is Simon Shi. I'm a 26-year-old professional triathlete living in the United States. Here's my bike collection now. Let's compare it to when I first started triathlon. This is the Dimond Radiant. This is the road bike, and I use it mainly for training if I'm not using my TT bike. This is my Dimond Mogul. It does say Marquise here because I actually broke this beam at first, so I got it replaced. So this is Marquise, but this is my TT bike, and this is what I use for my racing. And this is my Dimond Carbide. This is a gravel bike, and I actually have not been riding on this at all. And the goal is to set it up and start riding on this. When I first started triathlon training, I got my first bike, and it was a blue Specialized Pari-Roubaix. I actually have some training videos filmed right here in this garage right behind me when I was first being coached by Natasha from 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 Coaching. Okay, so right now, see the stem? It's facing up. If I flip it, it will be down. So my friend Kenny told me about slamming the stem, so this is what I'm going to do. Get in a more aerodynamic position. I had good memories for that bike. I remember going on my first long ride, which was about 35 miles. I was living in Maryland at the time, and I was heading straight to Washington, D.C. And then I thought to myself, oh, I only had 2 bottles. Let me turn back. And that's when I first experienced my first bonk, which is when you're completely out of energy and you just can't pedal anymore. So that's when I called my dad, and he picked me up. And that's when I learned I need to start eating food when doing these type of endurance events. Coming from a swim background, I've been sprinting, and it's only 100, 200 meter races. So you don't really have to feel to go long, but to go fast. While in biking and running, it's a whole different sport. You need a feel. It's more hours on the bike and more hours on the feet. I also had my Pari-Roubaix for a couple months when I first started. I didn't buy my first triathlon bike until the months before my first triathlon, which was Ironman 7.3 St. George on May of 2021. Natasha helped me so much kickstarting my career in the triathlon space. And this community also, there's so many people that contributed to my success, so I just can't thank enough of you guys, the triathlon community. One thing that helped me a lot was my coach Natasha let me borrow her race wheels. For most key races, I had her race wheels, but there was one at Ironman 7.3 Oceanside in 2022 where I just used my training wheel. At that time, I had my best results, my best time, and I was so happy about it. And I was on my training wheels. Who knew what kind of times I would have been or how much faster, but I was pretty stoked about it. And the reason why I didn't get my triathlon bike earlier is because I think that, and I also think to myself today, if I want to upgrade to something more aerodynamic, like calf sleeve or any cool tech that is trending in the triathlon or cycling market today, I ask myself this question. So you look at the best in the world, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 Vingegaard, the winner of the Tour de France. Can he beat me up a climb, a 10-mile climb up a mountain on a $200 bike while I have this $4,000 bike? Of course, I think he can. Once I can say I can beat 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 Vingegaard when he's riding a $200 bike and I'm on my bike, and I want to make some upgrades like wheels or anything, then I'll make that upgrade. But as of now, I have so much work to do, just working on my leg strength, and the marginal gains will come and when I'm closer in the field in the triathlon races. My Specialized Pari-Roubaix had 3 chain rings up front, so there was 3 shifters up front, skinny tires, good enough frame, wires everywhere, hanging out everywhere, but it was good enough for training. Now I have the Dimond Radiant road bike featuring the Good Life Racing paint job, 160mm brake rotors both on the front and the back wheels. I have the Vision Trimax AGX I-23 wheels for both, running 32mm tires. And since this is for training purposes, I do not have to go fast, so this is a very puncture resistant tire, and I can just focus on training. Up front, I have the Royal Crown handlebar with the 𝐾𝐨𝐧'𝐭 computer mount SRAM Rival shifters, both SRAM Rival front and rear derailleur, a SRAM Rival 160mm crank length paired with the 4835 chainring along with the 1026 cassette in the back. I have FSA SLK bottle holders on this bike with my Favero Asiamo power needles on this bike right now, since I am mainly training on my road bike at the moment. But when it comes to race day and when I do sessions on my triathlon bike, I put my Favero Asiamo power pedal and switch it over to that pedal, so I have power numbers I can read from. SRAM Rival hydraulic disc brakes for both the front and the back wheel. Finally, the Cell Italia saddle to close out my Dimond Radiant road bike. In conclusion, I think there are 3 main differences between my old road bike and my new road bike. Number 1, my new road bike is a carbon frame and is sturdier. My old road bike is aluminum frame. Number 2, hydraulic disc brakes on my new road bike, and then mechanical cable cable rim brake on my old road bike. And number 3, I have the SRAM ETAP electronic shifting on my new road bike, and I have the cable mechanical shifting on my old one. And they say when you go electronic shifting, you'll never go back to mechanical. It's very nice. I'm the type of guy that wanted to learn everything about bike, from waxing my chain, learning how to adjust the shifting of the bike, making sure the screws are just the right amount of torque for carbon frames, and all of that stuff. I used to go to bike shops and pay $80 to have them tune up my bike for my races, but now I do it myself. Since I have all the tools, I invested in a tool box that has all the tools that I can do just about everything to just get my bike in good shape and clean, ready for the race. So I think it's very important that everyone knows their bike mechanic. And when I fly into different races across the country and hopefully next year across the world, I'll have the tools necessary to fix my bike up. And I can be confident that my bike is ready to go 100%. And I do have that under control, that it will be ready for the race and nothing bad could potentially happen, and I just have a clear mind. For my Dimond Mogul TT Bike, here are the specs. Up front we have the Vision Metron TFE Aero extension bar paired with the Vision Snakebite Aero base bar, TRP hydraulic brake, SRAM wireless shifting both up front in the aero bars and at the handlebar. I don't have my race setup right now, but I do have a bottle holder up front with a computer mount from XLab. The same Vision Trimax AGX i23 training wheels up front and in the back wheel, paired with the Continental Gator Skin 28mm for training purposes. Now the drivetrain, I have the Rotor 155mm crank paired with the 1x52s from Rotor. I do have training pedals on, but I usually have my Favero Asiamo power pedals so I can read the power numbers. 1036 SRAM Force cassette with 140mm brake rotors both up front and in the back. SRAM red rear derailleur, and to top it off, the Prologue saddle. For my race setup wheels, I use the Vision Metron 81 SL wheels and the Royal Crown Cycling disc wheel on the back. The back has 28mm GP5000 tires. The front has 25mm GP5000 tires. Having these bike mechanic skills, it allowed me to adjust my position and do different bike fit. And if I had any problems at any time, I knew what I had to do and don't have to take it into a bike shop for a couple of hours or even overnight. For me, being 3 years into the triathlon sport, cycling is obviously the most time consuming and the most expensive out of the 3 sports. I purchased a lot of stuff, but most importantly, I went to a very good bike fitter. And it cost me almost $1,000 for 2 visits of me getting a proper bike fit.
So this one, there's no difference in the position. This is optimized position.
And I highly recommend you going to a bike fit to get a proper fit, just to avoid any potential injuries and to learn more about your body when you're cycling. I haven't gone to a bike fitter in a very long time. I do it myself now. For example, I take measurement from my bottom bracket to my seat saddle, and then my saddle to where my aero extension bars ends at the front, and all of that stuff. And when I did go to the bike fitter, I had a list of questions I wanted to ask, and I did ask them. I took my time, I really understood my body, and I just got the most of it, and I learned a ton. So that's one thing if you're just starting out. Go to a bike fitter when you have a triathlon bike. It doesn't have to be right when you get a bike, but I would say as soon as possible as you can afford and when you have the time, and you do learn a lot about yourself and your positioning on the bike. When I had my Cervelo bike back when I first started triathlon, and I used it as my first triathlon bike in my first triathlon race, I had the Cervelo P series. It was mechanical shifting, mechanical brake, very entry-level bike, but it got the job done. And I actually used that bike to qualify as a professional for the United States. I did not have a power meter up until the end of my first year triathlon, all I did was training inside where I had my smart trainer. So when I did have my smart trainer, I had power number and heart rate, and I would sort of correlate those two numbers, my power, heart rate, and kind of map out my effort levels. And whenever I went outside, I would go by heart rate. And then for races, I just go by effort. So I learned at first to go by effort and races and not to check my heart rate data, my power data during the race, and just focus on race. My Cervelo P Series was around $3,000 total, without the race wheels. And my current Dimond Mogul TT Bike for triathlon racing, I did make a very short video on it. This is more than $20,000 for my current bike. You can see from my bike pictures that I have cables hanging out, so it's from all those mechanical shifters, all those cables, and now it's all wireless, and I love my wireless SRAM shifting. I had electronic shifting 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐸 last year, but I like SRAM better because there's no wires, very easy to travel with. It's not the best shifting, but it gets the job done, and the app on your phone is very helpful. And without any of my sponsors, this would not have been possible. Diamond Factory Racing, Diamond Bikes, Good Life Brands, they've all helped me support my dreams and my aspiration to become a top level professional in the triathlon sport. At first, I just worked on the strength part. I did not have a power meter. Just work hard, put myself out there on social media and in different races, and just worked hard every single day. And that's, I think, is how I got to where I am today. There's still so much work to be done, and I'm just excited and just enjoying the journey every single day.